Hi, this is Stan Fitzgerald with Veterans for America First and our partner channel, The Vet Voice. I'm here with my friend Mike Miller, who's with the nonprofit Warriors for Ranchers. And Mike takes people out to the border, candidates, politicians, celebrities, news reporters, and gives them the real tour of what's going on at the border. How are you today, Mike?
I'm doing fine.
So, Mike, recently you and I just spoke, and I got some updated news from you that I did not know. So let's start with that. The cartel has placed a $1.5 million bounty on your head. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that and why?
That happened last year. So it's probably just you and I didn't have that conversation. We were running a hunting property in South Texas, and during that time we were taking cottonseed and hay to the animals. It was just me, and there's some rain culverts that are pretty large. You and I can stoop down and walk inside of them. And Real America's Voice and Jorge Ventura, several different journalists have actually been to that site and seen this firsthand. But you can go in there, and on any given day, I could drive by and you would see Whataburger containers. And I'm not saying that Whataburger is bad. I just want to put that disclosure out there. But you would see food and evidence that somebody's eaten in there, right? Well, on one day I was driving, not even paying attention. There's three of them, and one of them's larger. When three rounds were fired at me, and I was doing about 30 miles an hour in a Polaris Ranger buggy with cottonseed and hay in the back. And just like anybody, I got out of there as fast as I could. I couldn't get a hold of Border Patrol through their the actual checkpoint. I have that phone number. So on my phone, when I just type in the words border, I have like a huge list of people that show up on my phone. Is when I put in the word border. Let's see if I can just do it so I can give you the idea. And I started calling all the people. Let's see if I put it right in front of me. All the people on my list, it just goes on, all the Border Patrol people. And these are people that I've personally had out at the property before, who's come out and responded to other issues that we've had. And I meet new agents every single time. So I got through on a cell phone, and I told them that I've got people trespassing the property that I've been shot at, that they need to get out here and respond as fast as possible. They come out, and at the time they didn't find those guys or that person, whoever it was. I don't know if there's one, don't know if there's two. I don't know if they were directly shooting at me, but I knew that there was gunshots fired very close proximity to where I was. So after this had taken place, some time had went on, and I was driving my truck outside the gate of the ranch, locking up. It's late at night, and just like any other husband would, I'm texting my wife, going, "Hey, hon, I'm on my way home. It's been a long night." At the time I was doing that, two dark two dark things came to the truck, and it was people wearing solid black. One guy ran around the front of the truck holding something long in his hand, whether it was a piece of rebar or a stick, I don't know. And the other guy's shaking my passenger side handle of my truck. And so I leave as fast as I could through the railroad tracks because we're so far out in the country, there's no crossing arms there. And so I call Border Patrol. They go out there chasing after those guys. And it's just become a constant scary place to be. That property has since been sold. The landowner was a close friend of mine who I can't disclose his name or anything. I made a promise to him and his family to protect them for that reason. After all these things started happening, U.S. Customs asked me to come speak at a town hall in Uvalde, Texas. I went to the U.S. Customs office. I met with the PAC. I met with the many of his other agents who's either been to our ranch or knew who we were. And we discussed this event that was coming up that had people who represent Ted Cruz, other congressmen and senators within the state of Texas. Their representatives were there, and a whole bunch of people from the local community were there. At that time, I met one of the women from the Republic Women of Texas, and she started lining me up with speaking engagements. And I believe I did 19 town halls in the state of Texas last year. I ended up speaking on the Reawake America tour with General Flynn, mutual friends of ours, with Joe Flynn as well. Those guys were always out there, and we're telling the truth about what's happening in our country. So my wife and I were in our bedroom, and to get to that question you asked me, my phone rang. It was a number that showed from Mexico, and we answered the phone. I had it on speakerphone, and it was a person telling us that my name made a list, and that they're going to hurt my daughter, they're going to hurt my wife, they're going to hurt me, and that I had a $1.5 million bounty on my head. I took that information and I called the Texas Rangers right after that phone call, and I told them I've just been threatened. and they assisted. They told me that there's going to be another agent appointed to my phone call. So another agent responded, called me up, and I've never heard from them since. I've had 3 different phone calls like that where my life has been threatened. And I've had them from Laredo, Texas. I've had them from Mexico themselves. I was in Anaheim in California at a speaking event, and my private security had to answer one of them because I can't speak fluent Spanish. And he told me that it was just another cartel death threat. And it was coming strictly from Mexico. It's like the plus number, +00, whatever. You can tell it's the Mexican phone number. And my wife and daughter were in the room. And at that time, the hotel put us in a room where if somebody were to come to the hotel looking for me, that my name wasn't on the list and I was protected where I was at. So we had to take measures like that to protect my family, just going around places to places and having private security. So definitely not a fun place to be. And all of this is happening because where that ranch was, when you're driving on Highway 90 and you reach the Border Patrol checkpoint, the very first dirt road to the left drives straight to the railroad tracks, and across those railroad tracks is the elaborate gate into the property we were on. So if they don't want to go through the federal agency when they're smuggling people, drugs, whatever, they turn and they go down that road. And they will often tell you they've detained anywhere between 17 to 60 people in one day on that road. And on one particular instance, we had 2 helicopters and about 14 squad cars on that property detaining people. And I've had fully armed individuals on the railroad. I have video of that where they had their flak vest on or whatever, and they've got weapons. We called Border Patrol. Here comes the helicopter. We saw 2 people, but I believe they got 6 or 7 of them. But they don't tell us what kind of weapons they had or whatnot. They just told them they did detain them, and they were on the property right next door to ours. So now in 2022, that property sold. Our neighbors on both sides of us sold because of the break-ins were so heavy. We detained a person on our property from the Honduras. The local guys came and apprehended him and took him out. And that was when we had paid hunting guests on the property. So the threats are real, and Uvalde's not necessarily real close to the border, but we're close to Brackettville, and Brackettville's getting the heat where Sheriff Brad Cole and his people are constantly seeing these things. If you ever follow them on Facebook, they just had a car roll over and explode like a Hollywood movie. The flames were like 100 feet in the sky, but there wasn't any major injuries. But America's hearing it's a humanitarian crisis. That's not the case when you've got fentanyl coming through with cocktails of fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, and all these drugs in one backpack crossing our border. And that was last week they detained that guy. And that's just one of the many backpacks that got caught. So my
Mike,
real Go
let
ahead.
me just narrow you down for a second.
Yeah.
So with the bounty put on your head by the cartel, there's a reason they did that. If I understand correctly, it's because you're effective in cutting down their flow of the narcotics trafficking and human trafficking. Is that correct?
Sure. And I can't take 100% credit for that myself, but we've drawn attention to a lot of these places that they're moving through. So whether it's me or other media or other patriots of Texas that are going down there going, look what's happening right here. They're bringing rafts across that property. Our National Guard's posted in those places. Those particular areas we've put a lot of emphasis on. And in those particular areas, our National Guard and our Department of Public Safety have busted palletized loads of drugs. And let me tell you how creative they have gotten. They have brought the drugs through, whether it's in the wheels of their tires, which that's gone on for many years, right? They have put them in food products. So imagine what a bag of onions looks like. I mean, they're big bags, right? You see them at the barbecue restaurants, but they were hollowing out that shell of the onion and they're putting bags of fentanyl in the middle. And I think their assumption is that the dogs won't smell it with that heavy flavor of onion around it, but they did. They sniffed it out. A truckload of onions with fentanyl in it. Then we're seeing all-purpose flour that they've had, where they open it up in the internal part, and it looks like it's being packaged that way, Stan, where the fentanyl is being put in the middle, and then they're putting the powder on top.
Mike,
Weapons. Go ahead.
let's circle back a minute to your background and because for the person who might not know you, they might view this as somebody just spewing out a lot of stories with no verification. So I do want to point out that I've actually been to the border with Mike, and he runs a video blog. He has video evidence of everything he's telling you. And not
Absolutely.
only has he been there with General Flynn, he's been there with our Admiral Kubik from Veterans for America First and high profile candidates from across the country, as well as lots of media crews from Real America's Voice, who we also deal with. So this is
Sure.
all verifiable, what he's telling you.
One second. I'm gonna
Yeah, go
actually
ahead,
get
Mike.
something here. You want evidence, Stan? I
Yeah,
have
just
evidence if you
there
want
you
to see
go.
evidence. So what's happening is they're coming across the border with documents, all these different types of documents they fill out in Mexico, and they bury this in the sand. And I got permission from National Guard for,
Hold it a little closer to your body.
so
Okay,
these
yeah.
documents,
Uh-huh.
Border Patrol didn't want them. They were just going to throw them away. So I was like, can I have them? They're like, sure. So this one even has an image of the guy on it, right? But see how they're cutting out these important parts? They're doing that with all of them. For some reason, there's something they don't want people seeing on these. But then you have all the bracelets, right? These are all the bracelets just in one group that was thrown on the ground.
Mike, explain the bracelets to the viewers because they might not know what you're talking about, even though I do.
So the bracelets are basically like a receipt, right? So they're paying the cartel anywhere between $3,000 to $11,000 a person. Is just some of the stated amounts that we've heard. Some of the bracelets actually have written. I don't know if any of those do, but I can look. They write on them and then they try to erase it. So they'll put like 1,500 or 2,000. They'll write an amount and then they scratch it out with a permanent marker because they don't want you to know. But there's just a ton of these. Let's see, you can see them. There's just tons of them. And they say entregas, which means arrivals. So these are their arrival people. When you see them cut these bracelets on the American side, the immigrants that are wearing them often become very tearful. That is like cutting money to them. It costs them tons of money to get that bracelet. It's often stated that the cartel will give them another chance if that bracelet's intact when they get on the Mexico side to come back across. Otherwise, they have to come up with all that money again, and that's why our guys cut it to come back over. So these people tell us that at times when they were speaking to us, the cartel has silenced these folks. They would say, no say, no say. They can't talk, no say. And then the other ones will say, you know what? Can you keep me protected and whatnot? I said, I just want the truth. And they'll tell us they paid $3,000 for their whole family, the father, the daughter, and the mother. So that's $9,000 to cross the river into America. The big thing I want people to understand, people have learned how easy this is. So now instead of just people from Mexico crossing our border, we have 140 countries represented in those people crossing our border, to the point that we have people from the Ukraine now going on to the Mexico side, crossing into the United States, flying into Phoenix and coming in through Yuma sector. In all the different places, we have people from all these different foreign nations coming across our border. And the amount of empowerment that the Biden administration's given the cartel during this time is unreal. Because Stan, you and I could dress up. We could go across to the Mexico side. We could package anything that we want and probably cross right into the United States with it. You know, if they don't properly go through the bag, and I'm not saying that our Border Patrol is not detailed oriented, but they have thousands of people doing this at the same time. And I just heard it on Real America's Voice from Ben Berquam. I'm quoting Ben, that they were there and the Border Patrol agency got so fed up that they just had to take a break and they left them there. All the immigrants, they drove all the vehicles and left them there for a short amount of time till they came back, or however long it was. But here you have reporters and all these immigrants just there. And those people waited, they didn't try to run, but those farm communities are affected by that. So you've
So
got
Mike,
drugs.
when I was out there with you,
Mhm.
kind of describe what you see at night. Those bracelets on the ground. I mean, I saw thousands of them, and then there's things like rape trees, and when we went up to the border with you, we saw cartel snipers in the trees pointing weapons at us. I mean,
That's correct.
give people an understanding of how this feels at night. You're there all the time.
Well, it's to the point you don't want to go there without protective vest or a security. This isn't a zoo. You're not going there just to see animals out wandering in the open. They're crossing people in rafts. And when we had Admiral Kubik there, we witnessed with the thermal optic, and the people that were there saw the raft coming across, and our National Guard went out there and they caught those individuals. And they ran back, and then they made another trip across, and that's when our guys got them. But the fact is, it's happening, and it's often happening really late at night. So between 11:30 and 3 a.m. in the morning is when we see the most traffic. But people do come across in the daytime. But those people that are coming across, those are asylum seekers. You're seeing pregnant women. You're seeing ultrasounds. How often is it you find ultrasounds all over the ground? Well, at the border, you do. And at the Catholic Charities, we actually witnessed this last year around 200 women pregnant, probably between 7 and 8 months pregnant, coming out of Catholic Charities at the same time. And they didn't want that video to be taken. InfoWars had people there. Alex Jones' team had people there. But 250 pregnant women all in the same spot. When is the last time you've seen more than 20 people that are pregnant in one spot? This was 200 plus women, and they were all pregnant and had kids with them. And they're anchor babies. And we all understand they give birth to that child in the United States, they get a chance at asylum here and have citizenship.
So, Mike, the average person is going to watch this and they're going to want to know why you do this. The cartel's got a bounty on your head. You're risking your life every time you go out there. Why do you take the time to continue to do this and do what you do?
It's because when the left wing media is what most of America's seeing, right? Your CNN, your New York Post, your Washington Times, all those Washington Post, all those people show up and they do the filming of the daytime. And you and I, we see a woman with a child, we're compassionate with that, right? You don't want anything negative to happen to those people. But then there's another side of this that America's not seeing, and that is they're getting SIM cards and bus passes. And when they come into the United States, they're getting this stuff or preparing them with this stuff. Like, how often is it you see SIM cards like this, tons of them, for cell phones and bus passes just thrown on the ground? That's not a normal thing. They're equipping these people with new cell phones, bus passes, airline tickets, and they're destroying evidence. So that right there is a cell phone, right? This cell phone has been destroyed to the point that I can't pull any information from it. And you can see on the back that the SIM card's missing. But what I can tell you is this: I reviewed some of the data on the cell phones, and it's not common to see cell phones thrown all over the ground, right?
Right.
Every one of these cell phones has been disposed of at our border. This particular cell phone right here had pictures of a stash house in it. And it's common that the law enforcement see that stuff. This is a house that had more than 30 people in like a living room area. There was a lot of pictures in there of just the palm of a hand. Like, they're identifying people with just the palm of the hand. There was also information in this cell phone that basically told them to drop another phone off and pick up a phone number that had a specific number on the back of it. But these phones are several $100s if a person had to go buy them. Some of them are brand names. This phone's not a typical one that you see in the US. It's a foreign phone. But cell phones everywhere. And there's information being hidden. And if this was a situation where they were telling the truth at the border stand, I wouldn't feel a need to want to go down there. But I feel the need because more people in this country need to know the truth. And the truth is, what we see on the news, yes, we see families crossing the border. We see the local law enforcement and the Border Patrol are working as hard as they can to detain these individuals. The other thing that's just now starting to make the news is how many deaths are occurring, how many assassinations are taking place. And when I say assassinations, I have full-blown video that I got from a law enforcement person from Mexico of a journalist being assassinated by AK-47s from the Los Zetas cartel. They put him on his knees and they shot him 57 times. And I think I might have shown you that video, or at least where I'm a cubic, that video. There was decapitations taking place on that side of the border. but now that stuff's making it over here. We're found, Savannah did a story on people's faces that had acid poured on them on the Texas side. And the complete mutilation of bodies, people that aren't agreeing with the cartel, or they didn't have the money to cross, or whatever their conflict was, they're murdering these people. That's not making the news. And the other part is the amount of deceased bodies that's being recovered from the heat that we just had here in Texas. August and September, it's extremely hot here in the South. And people like you and me drink about 6 to 7 bottles of water a day just to stay healthy and alive. They don't have that. So they're crossing these acreages that are 20,000, 12,000, and there's hardly any water on these properties. And they get lightheaded, they get dizzy, they pass out, and they die on these properties. And in one case in Brooks County, Texas, I believe it, you can quote me on this, I believe they found 19 deceased bodies on this man's property. And just recently on Real America's Voice, Ben Berkholm and his team visited the Brooks County morgue, which is a mobile container outside, where they're bringing these bodies that are basically look like weathered cow bones, right? If you've seen a cow that's deceased out in a field that's been there for months, the only thing that's left is the stretched skin and the ribs are showing, right? That's how they're finding these immigrants out on those properties. And so the law enforcement's doing what they can just to try to identify those individuals, but the hands are shriveled up, the meat and tissue's gone. So it's just difficult for them. But this has become more than just immigrants crossing the border. This has become contraband crossing the border, drugs crossing the border. There's a lot of money being transacted here, Stan. And I just wanted to be a voice to say, hey, if I just sit on the couch and complain like most of the Americans are and go, you know what, this sucks, and I wish they would do something about this. Well, 100,000 people sitting on the couch saying, I wish somebody would do something about this. It takes a certain type of person to go out and actually do something about it. I got tired of seeing farmers and ranchers' fences getting wrecked, and I wanted a way to expose this. So I founded Warriors for Ranchers, and we're trying to help these farmers and ranchers and be a voice for them. And so now that voice is getting amplified beyond just speaking. I am actually assisting a group of attorneys and a team of individuals that are mutual friends of ours on a U.S. Supreme Court case that is looking to sue the Biden administration and get these ranchers and farmers the very much needed assistance and financial support that they need.
Well, we're also hoping after the election, we get Arizona and Texas, we get these walls built even during the Biden administration. Center for Renewing America, Russ Vought, who used to work in the White House, has a plan for that. I'm actually on that team in Georgia, but they have a plan for Texas and Arizona. So hopefully with Kari Lake and Abbott, assuming they get reelected, you're going to see that wall built rather quickly and stop
I
some of this
love Kari Lake.
madness.
I have not had a chance to meet her personally, but I can tell you she is a powerful woman. She's a humble person that has an American first heart, and she will lead Arizona into one of the most beautiful states that it's ever been.
Well, Mike, let's close with this. Let's tell people how to get to your website, and also, as important, how to watch your video evidence, because you've been documenting this for a long time, and you have thousands of hours of footage to back up everything you said in this interview. So please tell people how to find this.
So I have actually stepped back from podcasting a little bit. I'm probably going to start getting back up on it. YouTube has banned me for life. Imagine that. Truth tellers, right? I went 10 months without doing YouTube. So it's Warriors for Ranchers on Facebook. It's actually a page, and I have a closed group. If you ask to join the group, I can verify you and get you on the group. But go to Warriors for Ranchers on Facebook. And my actual website is warriorsforranchers.com. You can read a lot of stories, see some of the videos there. But on the Warriors for Ranchers Facebook, just go to videos and just watch away. There's hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of video, like you said, of real encounters of this. The helicopters chasing the immigrants through private properties, helicopters chasing smugglers through suburban neighborhoods where they're exceeding speeds of 58 miles an hour, where you've got kids getting out of school and they're hauling through, these housing communities because they don't want to get caught. There's footage of vehicles that did get caught with smugglers on the ground that have smuggled drugs, and our local border patrol has captured them. Our railroad containers, you guys will see those where These containers are locked and the shear pins are bigger than my finger that go through there. And so these people are locked in a train. It's 105 degrees outside. And when the Border Patrol opens that hatch where the grain falls out, you'll see like 20, 30 water bottles hit the ground first because they're trying to stay hydrated. That train goes from Eagle Pass, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia. And oftentimes they find deceased bodies on those trains. So you'll see all this different footage, all these things taking place, the people being smuggled across the river like you guys witnessed, Stan. All of it's there. And feel free to comment, share as much of this as you can. And I didn't get into Warriors for Ranchers for likes, follow, fame, or fortune. I did it because I'm a father first. I'm a retired Air Force veteran. I care about this country. I set an oath when I was in the service that I would serve and protect this country. And that oath never expires. And many men that are in law enforcement and in the military all feel the same way. We have to do our part. And so warriorsforranchers.com, if you feel led by God to donate to my organization, you can also go to Venmo and donate at Warriors for Ranchers on Venmo. So speak on something that you and I just recently talked about. We actually have a European journalist who has an interest in sharing the story across the world. Stan helped me to vet this individual. He does great work. He writes for 3 different press organizations, and he wants to go spend time on the border. I'm not going to disclose when, but he's going to get the truth, and he's going to be able to share to the people in Europe everything that he sees that's happening. And what I love about this guy, he's a European, but he doesn't share the same thoughts and feelings of well, he shares the same thoughts and feelings we have about the left. Is he hates the fact that they're manipulative and they're lying to Americans, and they've been using the press to distort the views of the many people that just need to vote for the right man. And I honestly believe that man is, if Donald Trump runs, a man of God needs to get in that office.
Well, we've had a lot of people in Mar-a-Lago tell us, just hold on, he's coming. So,
I'm ready. You
so
know,
listen, the border obviously creates incredible amounts of problems for our country. But one thing you touched on, our freedom of speech is also at risk. Uh, why did you get your YouTube channel shut down for life? What did they tell you, if anything?
YouTube said I went against their community guidelines because I made a list. I was on Steve Bannon's War Room, Stan, and I honestly believe because I actually made that list. I made that list with General Flynn. I made that list with Sidney Powell. I made that list with Wendy Rogers. All the people who stand up and voice their opinion. Marjorie Taylor Greene was there. All these people who spoke to Steve Bannon, who's reported the truth. YouTube didn't want the truth on the channel. They didn't want us, they said that we were spreading medical misinformation and that we were sending harmful information to the YouTube viewers. And they said that I was going against their community guidelines. If
So
going to the
let's just because we are going to host this video on YouTube, so let's not get into what the specifics are. I just wanted to get a general idea because that's a problem too, free speech. Twitter had a victory with crazy Elon Musk. At least he's bringing us back free speech there, but YouTube's not there yet. So let me thank you for your time, and let me ask our veterans and first responders community to please go on his website referenced earlier and give what you can from across the country. And Mike, we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
You bet. Stan, God bless you for what you've done for our country. Thank you for spreading the truth. And I stand behind Veterans for America's First.
Thanks, Mike, and we stand behind you, brother. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet.